Welcome to another episode of DFW Spotlight on Business. This is Heidi Hardy, and just another wonderful, beautiful Wednesday. And I'm here in the studio with one of my all-time favorite people ever, Joan Meeks. Welcome.
Thanks, Heidi. As you can tell, I'm just a little bit nervous, but that's okay. I'll warm up.
Well, we've done this a few times together.
We actually have.
It is a little bit nerve-wracking when you get started, and especially because it's video. Before we were just doing the radio shtick, and so we have a little bit of video here, but it's fun and exciting, and I'm super excited about our topic. I'll throw that out there right now. Why your company needs a recycling plan in 2018. And there's so much more to this conversation that Joan's going to bring a lot of depth to it. I think, you know, when I say recycling, it means something completely different than I know what she's been doing for years and years of her career. So we're going to unravel that a little bit, or unwrap that topic, and ask you to help us out with some of the more
intricacies.
Yeah, the more
recycling.
details in it.
Well, in actuality, we started back in the 70s with recycling, and it's just moved forward. But in essence, over the last year, we're getting more into, you're going to hear people talk about the circular economy. And I'll just put that right out there immediately so I don't forget.
Yep, I'll write it down.
I will be on a panel with folks. DFW Airport is hosting a conference, an airport conference on sustainability. Airports around the world take turns hosting this conference. So this will be in November, which is already this month, November 13th through the 15th. I'll put a little plug in there for DFW Airport. And it's executives from airports around the world, and they meet at a given location. And we're honored enough to have them coming to DFW. And they'll be talking about sustainability. And I specifically was invited to speak on a panel about circular economy, which really is the next step of recycling. And what that basically means is, how can manufacturers and business communities create products that will have longevity? Or in actuality, how can they create a product that doesn't become a waste item? Meaning, what are they using in their products? Perfect example are textiles. You know, right. What can we do with those textiles to get them back into a manufacturing product again, or back into a new piece of clothing? Maybe sheets, maybe blankets, maybe dog beds. So that's what the circular economy is solely focused on, is closing that loop and pretty much trying to get rid of as much waste as possible.
Well, thank you. Sorry. I want to make sure that everybody knows who you are. I mean, you own a Commodity Recycling Solutions here in the DFW area, and DFW Spotlight on Business is very specific about, we want to talk about DFW. I mean, this is a global conversation, and I really appreciate that we're all connected in so many ways. But I think from a Dallas, Fort Worth, and this is your home, this is where your business is, I think there are still people that are, you know, want to do this, want to be more active, want more information, but they just don't know where to start. So one of the things we do at the beginning of the show is I just want to, introduce the show as this is a show that is geared towards business owners in DFW, as you are yourself. So thank you for being here as one of our business owners.
Well, that's what I've liked even from the shows that you've done before is, you've really have the passion to get down with business owners and find out, what makes their business run, how is it benefiting North Texas, the DFW area. And folks always ask me, why did you choose Fort Worth? In my construction days, I had the privilege, 10, 15 years ago to see conceptual plans of what Fort Worth wanted to be when it grew up.
Yeah,
absolutely. Even though it's, where the West began or begins. But in knowing that information, I chose Fort Worth specifically because I knew where the city needed to go as far as sustainability and green, and where I really wanted it to go. And I just felt that as a business owner, I would have that opportunity to do that. And fortunately enough, the city of Fort Worth just recently passed a very aggressive solid waste plan that will increase recycling more than people had ever imagined. And it's probably the meetings that I've sat in with other sustainable folks and greenies, sometimes we call ourselves, and a lot of the feedback from the younger generation was they couldn't believe that everything that they had asked for as citizens was actually in that solid waste plan, specifically with regards to recycling and the type of recycling that was going to happen.
That's really exciting, and I agree. I think when you talk about, obviously DFW is a Dallas-Fort Worth area, but there's so many surrounding cities, but Dallas-Fort Worth had the spotlight on them in regards to that example. Mm-hmm. And what are they doing, and the expectations are that they're doing something that can lead the pack in a lot of ways. So we'll talk more about that specifically to Fort Worth, and just this is kind of a new show. I think this is maybe the 6th episode, which I'm really excited about. But the reason why we're doing it is so we can connect our business owners, our professionals, our colleagues, everyone that has anything to do with this economy in our neighborhood, in our community. Connect them with those resources like yourself and some of the information. So that's, why I do this show. A little bit about me is and you were there actually. Joan and I have a long, wonderful history together. And I just remember being extremely excited about this media platform and knowing that this is an opportunity to not just talk to 1 or 5 or even 20 or 100 people, but to many, and the message that we have to share today, we can put into an on-demand format where people can go back and say, I've been thinking about doing this in 2018. I remember that conversation out on Facebook or on Instagram or everywhere else that we're going to have it. And they can go back and take a look at it. So DFW Spotlight on Business is here to do that for you guys. So I've been doing this for a little while. I do need to make sure that we plug Insperity because they are an amazing organization. I work full-time for them as a business performance advisor. And there's a lot of different names for people who develop business. You can call them a salesperson. You can call them a business development professional, but a business performance advisor really sort of suits me well in regards to what I hope to do when I do meet a business owner that has a need, especially an HR need. So what Insperity does is it takes that HR, payroll, employee health benefits piece of the business and takes it off their plate and provides this world-class administrative support that includes professionals in the HR industry, safety professionals, payroll professionals, performance advisors in employee performance advisors, healthcare advisors. And there's all these people ready for these small business owners who would have to be the size of Lockheed to get the kind of benefits that someone, a small business owner needs. So Insperity does that. And what I want to do is encourage you to email me at heidi.hardy@insperity.com. That's heidi.hardy@insperity.com. And let's set up a 30-minute meeting. I'll bring Starbucks and we'll talk about your business, and Insperity might be the next best thing since sliced bread for you, or may not. But what we'll do is we'll build a relationship and we'll find out how we can help each other.
Well, that's interesting that you mentioned that, Heidi, because in my Power Circle group, I meet twice a month with 5 other female business owners. I am the baby of the group, having only had my business for 5 years, but we've got folks, as myself, 5 to 20 plus years in business. And I will have to say, every session we have, there is always the topic of human resources that comes up. Whether you have 1 employee or whether you have 20 or more, it's a challenge. We work through it, But I would have to say I'm seeing more and more folks that are going to an Insperity type platform. We're worried about either manufacturing a product or, in my instance, my company, I'm moving commodities all over the country and trying to figure out how I can make the most revenue from it, because that's how we earn our income. So HR definitely is not one of my fortes or something that I don't care to know about, really.
It's there's just so many things you guys have to do as business owners, and especially when you have to manage people, it's a whole nother ball game. So yeah, we Insperity underwrites the show, and thank you, Insperity, for doing that. And they do help this DFW community, and so I couldn't be more grateful for their support and what they do for this community. When I've watched a company change from having a real struggle in HR and payroll and health benefits for their employees to being able to put that aside and focus on, like you said, the way you build revenue.
Growing your business,
doing the things that you have to do every day to see that that paycheck come in, and to me, that's the most important part. I'm a business owner. I've been a business owner before, and I just remember payroll and making sure the rent's paid. All those things are so critical, and that goes in line with revenue streams, growing the business, making sure you're doing all the things that you have to do. Why put another?
Well, I would have to
burden on?
say what Insperity reminds me of is I purchase specific software every year. I pay the annual fee, and folks say, why do you do that? As a small business owner, you could be doing X, Y, Z, and all these other things to cut corners, specifically costs. But I just know purchasing that software year after year, I'm getting the latest updates, my information on my computer, and what we're communicating, not that what we're doing is top secret, but just knowing that our information isn't out there and I've got the latest software.
All right.
To
It's
run
an
my
investment,
company.
right?
Yes.
Absolutely. A tool and investment. So thank you, Insperity, and thank you for helping me explain how wonderful they are. And then there's my company. I have a small company called Real Life Media, and what I do is I help people do this. I help them create their own podcasts and their own radio shows. And really, in this day and time, if you're not doing some sort of video casting or audio casting, you're missing out an opportunity to really get the attention on the message and the voice that you have about your business or about your mission. So I'm out there evangelizing. Join me and Joan today. We're here to use this platform for good and to spread the message about business in DFW. And you could be doing the same thing on a regular basis. So if that is of interest, go to reallifemediallc.com. Here we go. So what we do at the beginning, and we'll take a break here in a few minutes, is I look up an article and we just have a quick decision before the first break. And of course, this is everything to do with what you're an expert in the show. So this article was very specific to the question, why recycle? And you know what? Sometimes people ask me that, why should I care about that? Why should I recycle? And it's really hard to respond without, going just
This is 2017.
throwing it all out there. This is why. But I think it broken down into some of these topics or some of these headlines will help anybody with that question. And so one of the first is it lowers waste cost. So recycling isn't just the right thing to do. It's actually something that can help your business's bottom line. Tell me a little bit about what you think of that.
Well, there is a belief from a lot of folks that recyclers make tons of revenue and money off of the commodities that they're trading. At one time, that might have been true with the precious metals market, but the easiest way for me to explain it to folks is if you follow gas prices, that's pretty much the reflection of commodities. So when you see that gas is cheaper, everyone is excited and everyone is happy. But for those of us in the recycling industry, that means commodities have fallen. I drive a Prius, so gas prices don't affect me. But that's the easiest, way to explain it. There is a cost for recycling, and usually, depending on the company and how large their volume is and what commodities that are going into their waste stream, there can even be a revenue generating portion for that. It's like any business, it's a trust factor. You have to vet the people that you're dealing with. And unfortunately, a lot of the customers that we get have had bad experiences.
Right.
Either they've been overcharged, or they say, oh, they don't really recycle it. They take it to the landfill. You've got to do your homework, like any vendor that you use for your business or personal. You don't just drive into the first mechanic shop when your car is, about to break down. You find out who they are. You might get a recommendation from a friend, so on and so forth. And that's the same thing with recycling. We want folks to go out there and get recommendations, and believe it or not, yes, it can help your bottom line.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So another one that I thought was interesting in this article is it says that happier employees, and I'll tell you why I think this is interesting. With environmental concerns increasing among Americans, there's a good chance that some of your employees want the ability to recycle at work. I actually think this new generation that's right behind us is very passionate about this topic.
Well, specifically here in Texas, Texas has one of the lowest landfill disposal rates nationwide. Yes, everything's bigger in Texas, but we will run out of landfill space eventually, and it's harder and harder to get landfill permits. It's just it's the right thing to do. History has a way of repeating itself.
Yep.
And I'll date myself a little by saying, when I was young, we'd, make sure we'd pick up pop bottles along the way, and we knew that we would get a nickel a piece. And that's basically, when I was a kid, if you wanted something, you either went around collecting, soda pop bottles. I grew up in Hawaii. We were fortunate enough to have a beer company that, took beer bottles back. So really, recycling and what we're doing, isn't anything new. It just, we went away from it for a while because more, bigger was better. And now even your minimalist groups, you're starting to get more and more of those folks are just realizing that it's the right thing to do. They don't want to see litter. They don't want to see their oceans polluted. Growing up in Hawaii, we ate fish every day. And now they're saying, well, you really shouldn't eat fish more than twice a week. I'm sure my grandparents are turning in their graves hearing that.
Yeah. Well, it's all related, right? So we understand, you and I, and many people understand that recycling is part of making sure that there is a sustainable planet for us. Well, we are running out of time before our first break, so we're going to go ahead and take this break, and then we'll come back and go through a couple more of these. But then I'm excited to introduce you and your story and the history that you have in your career and your business, and get even more into why recycling plans in 2018 is a good idea for businesses in DFW. You're watching DFW Spotlight on Business. This is Heidi Hardy, and we will be right back.
Hi, welcome to today's Biz Moment, brought to you by Insperity, inspiring business performance. Today's topic, employee development plans. The key to success from a manager's point of view is proper planning, clear direction, and the end result is a win-win. Yay! Who doesn't like it when everyone wins? Here are some questions to ask before you get started. And the first is, what are your business goals? Think about both long and short-term objectives. Write them down, even if you need a pen and paper. Sometimes that's the best way to do it. And then figure out what skills or knowledge your employees would need to meet those goals. Number 2, what are your employees' goals? That's kind of important to know, right? Meet with each team member face-to-face. There's nothing like old-fashioned communication. Ask them about the career goals. Would they even be open to learning new skills? Number 3, how do you determine which skills your employees need help learning? By making sure they're smart. And SMART is in all capital letters because S stands for specific, M stands for measurable, A, attainable, R, relevant, T, timely. Don't you just love a good acronym? Number 4, how do you put this into action? Consider all the possibilities for helping your employees acquire these new skills. Will that be in the form of formal training? Will it be reading, working with experts, one-on-one coaching and mentoring? Once you've figured out the learning channels, finalize a plan with a schedule or timeline. You don't want this to go on forever, right? Number 5, how will you apply these new skills in the actual workplace? Well, I'll tell you. Set up as many opportunities as possible for employees to apply the new skills to their job. There's no time like the present, especially when that knowledge is nice and fresh. Stay tuned for more Insperity Biz Moments, business tips for savvy leaders.
Well, welcome back. This is Heidi Hardy, and you're watching DFW Spotlight on Business. We are here with Mrs. Joan Meeks, and she is the founder and president, or is it CEO? President of Commodity Recycling Solutions. In other words, she's a business owner, and she's got a lot of really great business experience. And Commodity Recycling Solutions is about recycling, obviously, but then we're going to talk a little bit more about, what does that mean? What does it mean to our community? I'm going to tell you, this woman is one of the most passionate women I know when it comes to what she does in her trade. So we're going to get into that. Before the break, we did talk a little bit about some of the reasons why businesses should be recycling or what they could be doing. And Joan was helping us out with a couple of the I think there were top 6 reasons. And the first one we said was it lowers waste costs. And we talked about that. We talked about happier employees and the generations that are coming up, how important it is to them, whether or not it's about, having clean water and trees and all the things that, we want to make sure we continue to have on the planet and in our communities. But this one was interesting to me. It said it improves your image as a business. How would recycling improve somebody's image as a business?
As a business, it's basically improves your social responsibility. I work with offices from, 2 people up to campuses of 5,000. And a lot of times folks aren't really sure why they need to recycle. They just
I know.
So when I go and meet with folks, I just sit down with them and we have a chat. And yes, I am very passionate about recycling. It's almost an addiction. But truly, why are they recycling? Why is a corporation recycling? Are they recycling because they have too much waste and maybe their production processes aren't as efficient as they want them to be, and they're realizing that a lot of their material is going to waste and they're using, too much raw material? Some of it may be they've done something bad. And
there's that happens.
Yes, we know of a lot of companies like that, and they've gotten their hands slapped. So they're really trying to increase their company image or their company brand. And fortunately, recycling is one of the fastest and easiest and cost-effective ways to do that for a company. And really, all laughing aside, whether you've had your hand slapped or not, it is the fastest way to increase your company's image. And I'm not saying, that you have to go as far as, using gray water and, those types of things. Recycling program can be the fastest, the easiest, and the most cost-effective way for a company to increase the positive of their social responsibility within their company.
And we'll talk more at the last segment of the show on how, right? So, but thank you very much. That is I think sometimes it sounds like a lot of work. Recycling, I want to, but it's a lot of work. When you look at the whole picture and the benefit of what you're going to get as a business owner, and one of those being you're going to, your prospective clients, your colleagues, your peers are going to see your social responsibility. And that could be a really good boost for just an overall, positive image for the company. So
Well, another thing too is everybody wants to do good for their community,
yes,
right?
they should.
In one way or another.
Yeah.
And most folks do. And so just having that as part of a company's standard values and mission,
Yeah.
it's easy. I mean, it's natural. And, our younger generation is being taught to recycle in schools.
Sure.
And it's just an automatic. And so many people come here from other states and other countries. And unfortunately, they look at our state and we're behind the times.
We are. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to specifically talk about it for the DFW area. It's not that, like you said, Fort Worth's doing something innovative and new, and that's really great for Fort Worth. But there are other countries and other parts of our country that are, several years ahead of us, if not decades.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll talk about that. I think at the end of the day, just to end this segment, it's the right thing to do. I don't think it can be understated at how important it is to consider, what's going on with our waste. What are we doing with it? Where is it going? And that's going to be where you're going to help us out a little bit from a visual standpoint. And I love talking to you about it because, do I recycle at home? Absolutely. Is that enough? I don't know. All I know is when I talk to you, I realize that it can't be enough, that when the opportunity arises, I have to be consciously aware of what I'm doing professionally and personally. And as a business owner who may have 5 employees or like you said, just 2 employees, starting that is not hard. And it's just the right thing to do at the end of the day. So let's talk about your journey. I know that you started out in construction, and take it from there.
Yes, I had the pleasure of being in the commercial construction industry for 11 years, 11 or so years. And it depends on who you talk to on whether that was a pleasure or not. Somehow, it's probably because I grew up in a single parent home and spent a lot of time around males. My uncle watched me a lot of times when I was growing up. So I am your non-traditional female. I always gravitate somehow to male-dominated industries. So when I was working in the commercial construction industry, it was cheaper and it was cost-effective and saved time to just send to the landfill. And when I mean send to the landfill, we're talking about materials that were brand new, that the owner or the customer had paid for, but there was the deadline to meet. So there was no time to do sourcing or try to figure out how can we divert it. It has to go now. We have it in our budget. Let's just send it to the landfill. And then lo and behold, LEED came along, Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, which helped the construction industry get away from all that waste. And when the LEED certification first started out, recycling was a bonus to your certification. Well, as of today, the current version of LEED requires you to recycle 4 different types of commodities on your job site. It's mandatory, and it is part of your certification. So construction waste has come a long way. And back in 2010, when the market dropped, I went to work for a lady that owned a recycling company and fell into having my own business, specifically electronic recycling, and I've never looked back. So I've been in the industry for about 7 years, have had a lot of people that have helped me along the way. It's a generous industry. It can be a harsh industry, but I think that's what attracts me. I'm the type of person that,
Yep.
Heidi knows this. Don't tell me it can't be done. We'll figure it out even if I'm not an engineer. So that's pretty much how I've gotten into the industry. The first few years in it, I spent just learning the business and working the business. And now I've had the pleasure to get more involved in the different recycling associations we have here in Texas, and that has been very rewarding professionally. We get some of the craziest requests of things to recycle. And I would say, I mean, we do a lot of recycling for resale stores, and one that came in, which was unbelievable, was someone's false teeth. I mean, that was just like, no, we cannot recycle that. But there are a lot of challenging items, and what we usually suggest to folks is never say never. You can send it to us, and we'll do a free R&D analysis, which basically means no matter what the widget is, we'll take it completely apart. We'll figure out the different types of commodities that are in that item, and then we'll go to our downstream vendors and we'll say, can this be recycled? And then once we've determined that, we'll help the customer, and then we'll add on to that. We'll send a letter to the manufacturer and say, by the way, if you didn't already know, we did research on this widget that you sell, and here are the items that can be sold in that. And hopefully, you will share that with your customers, and, even use it as a one-up, as a value added line item about your product to sell your product.
Yeah. So I've known you since you've had your business, and I just have to tell everybody how I met you. We were at a women's networking group, and you stood up and gave a passionate, minute and a half of what you do and what you're doing and who you're trying to, help you build your business. And one of the things that you said was, I'm looking for IT companies. Well, it just happens that was what I was doing at the time. I was selling IT solutions to small to medium-sized businesses, and it just clicked for me that she's taking something that people are rejecting, and I don't know where people put their computers or their laptops. My husband puts it in the closet. That we might have 6 of those. No, not really. We recycle. But yeah, there was a time when I don't know that people really knew that they had choices of what to do with these business items that many times they went through every 3 years. They were replacing a new computer every 3 years, or they were, replacing servers. So, you've over time, you started with electronic recycling, primarily, but now you're in the business, as you just described, where you can almost take anything and take a look at it. And I think that's pretty amazing.
Well, we'll take a look at it. Unfortunately, the plastics market has fell. China has put stronger stipulations on what they're receiving into their country. And unfortunately, that's where most of the recycling is done, and items are sent in. We could stay on that topic probably for 2 or 3 hours, but as far as recycling goes, what I'm hoping to see in our country is less and less commodities having to go out of the country to be recycled, and to be able to have them stay here within the country. Specifically, I'll put in a plug for EcoStraits. They were a company that started in California. They're now here in Texas. And basically what they do is they take computer plastic and carpet fibers, and they make signs.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And
yeah, I remember we were talking about that. Absolutely.
I should have brought a sample.
Yeah.
And basically what's attractive about those signs is nobody wants them. A lot of signs get stolen because they're aluminum, and it's one of the top commodities to take to a scrapyard and get turned in for funds. Some of that regulation has changed by scrappers when people bring in items, but it doesn't fade. And another plus to that, not that you can't do this with metals, but it can be put right back into their production line and made into another product.
Wow.
And the nice thing about that is that type of plastic, as far as the market, has really dropped tremendously. So here are companies like EcoStraits that are really practicing the circular economy. They're producing a product in which, their materials that they're using can stay in that recycling circle that we all use.
Right. Well, we are ready for our next break. And what I'd like to talk about when we get back is more about the circular economy that that you mentioned at the beginning, and you just mentioned it. Great segue. And sort of help us walk through what that looks like in your world. So you're listening to DFW Spotlight on Business. This is Heidi Hardy, and we'll be right back.
Welcome to today's Biz Moment, brought to you by Insperity, inspiring business performance. Today's topic, employee turnover. Specifically, why employees leave. If you know the causes, it's much easier to prevent the problem. Which brings us to number 1. They're motivated by higher pay. No matter how much someone loves working for you, if presented with a better monetary offer, they're probably going to go for it. And honestly, can you blame them? Help counter this by keeping tabs on compensation offered by competitors and/or conducting an annual salary survey to see how employees view their salaries and benefits. Number 2, they're not engaged. Employee engagement may sound like another corporate buzzword, but we're here to tell you that engaged employees are known to seek out challenging work, resolve and find solutions to problems, share ideas proactively, provide support to colleagues, and go after training and development opportunities. Sound like good traits? Of course they do. If you want to know more about keeping those employees more engaged, check out our Biz Moments episode dedicated to, you guessed it, employee engagement. And thus begins our segue to number 3. They're bored. High-performing workers need a challenge and a feeling of forward momentum in terms of professional growth and development. Take the time to meet with your employees and be proactive in discussing career and succession plans with them. You won't be sorry. Number 4, they're poorly managed. We all know a bad boss, hello, Michael Scott from The Office, can make any employee miserable. And if your employees are miserable, they're not going to stick around. And you know this already. Humans crave routine, structure, and consistency, which are all things created and managed by a good boss. To help managers be the best they can be, make sure they have the tools and the training. Don't intentionally or unintentionally protect bad managers and submit managers to the same performance evaluation process as everyone else. It just makes it fair. Stay tuned for more Insperity Biz Moments, business tips for savvy leaders. For more like these, visit the Insperity blog at insperity.com and hold on to those employees, okay?
Welcome back. This is Heidi Hardy, and you are watching DFW Spotlight on Business. We are talking with Joan Meeks today, and she is the founder and president of Commodity Recycling Solutions. We are talking all things recycling and why you, as a business owner or business professional, should be thinking about more recycling in 2018. When we left, we had we've been talking about all kinds of really cool things, but one of the keywords or buzzwords that I keep hearing is circular economy. Mm-hmm. And I'd really like to understand that a little bit more. Can you help us?
The easiest way to explain the circular economy is to look at the recycling circle. Mm-hmm. So if you look at anyone's,
go to your website. Actually, your website has it. It's great. Yeah.
So crs-tx.com.
Yeah, I was just going to say, what is that website? crs-tx.com.
Okay.
Everybody go there.
And basically, when you look at a recycling circle, that's specifically what it means, the circular economy. But the circular economy is going more in depth with regards to recycling. Perfect example is a cardboard manufacturing company, All Star Corrugated in Fort Worth. Travis Baker is wonderful.
Yes, he is.
Him and Manuel met with me earlier this week, and I wanted to find out from them with regards to packaging design. What are people looking at with regards to packaging design? And the reason why I asked that question is because as a recycling company, we get a lot of cardboard in, we get a lot of different items in, but some of it we can't recycle because they're using 3 or different types of commodities to make that packaging. Whereas if they would have only used all corrugated, we would have easily been able to just throw it in with a cardboard and get it recycled. But there's so many items out there that packaging designers don't have either the luxury or the time to think about when they're designing their packaging that would qualify for the circular economy. And basically it just means that your waste in one way or another can be reused again, either to make new products or, say, for instance, food. Food can be turned into fertilizer and, used organically
Sure.
to fertilize a lawn. So that's what we're specifically asking. Unfortunately, our society likes to make things complicated because somehow if it's very complicated, it has more dollar value to it. But, that's probably why I'm successful at recycling. It's not rocket science. It's common sense.
Yeah, you know what? I get that, and I would agree with you. I will tell you though, from a business owner's lens, that as you're talking, I understand it can be as uncomplicated or simple as, let's get everybody to recycle their plastic and aluminum cans to what am I using in 2018 I'm going to buy a certain amount of A, B, and C product.
Right.
And is that product the kind of product that is going to I guess align or be a part of my mentality as a business owner to reduce, reuse, and recycle? I'm not sure that I could answer that question intelligently. I mean, if as a business owner, they would need you or some other resource to be able to say, okay, I'm going to use cardboard or I'm going to use plastic. And is that the best thing to do for my company from a recycling standpoint?
It's not.
Is that a true statement or is it?
Yes. And the thing about it is folks always think, like I say, people make things complicated.
I just did. Sorry. I did. My mind is
People
blown.
make things complicated. I had a manufacturer that I was dealing with, and this company is, 50 to 60 years old. They've been in business that long. And what they could not understand is, I told them, okay, you manufacture a product, body lotion. You know that body lotion is going to go into a plastic bottle from your because I used to be in manufacturing. You know that when it goes through your production line, a percentage of those plastic bottles are going to become waste because they're either defective, they cracked on the line, whatever it might be. So in actuality, your BOM or your bill of materials could have the percentage of waste that's going to come out of that production. And really that waste shouldn't be waste. You could already be forecasting what's going to be recyclable from your production before it even hits your recycling area so that you can be able to sell those commodities quickly.
Wow. Okay.
They could not. It was so simple, they could just not get their hands around that concept.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they were a very, very large company, and we chose not to do business with them because they couldn't buy into our processes and procedures. It wasn't only costing them money, it was costing us money.
Yeah.
And though I love recycling and I love the environment and being sustainable, I still have to feed my family.
Well, it's your business.
And that's my business.
Yeah, that's how you, absolutely. Well, I mean, that's definitely helpful. And I think when you look at the small business owner today, one of the things that I know happened to a company that I worked with, and they were an IT companies. They met you to my introduction. I don't know what they were doing previously to meeting you in regards to recycling, but they, as an IT company, they were turning around these electronics, and I would guess that they weren't recycling at the time. Well, now after your relationship with them, that is just the way they do it. Mm-hmm. That's just the way they do it.
And that was the thing, is they were trying to do good, but because of lack of time and lack of knowledge, they didn't get partnered with the right company.
Exactly.
And, that's the way we get a lot of our customers, is because they've either had bad service or they don't know the questions to ask. And like I tell them, your profession is IT. It's your job to keep people up and running. And when somebody asks you to recycle a printer because you're there on site and they know you handle their electronics, they really want to say no, but because it's a customer, they say yes, and then figure, oh my gosh, now what do we do? So unfortunately, the company did have that problem. They did try to have a relationship with a company, but the company was hit and miss. They'd say, oh, we'd be there Thursday, and then they would never hear from them again.
Oh, I remember that. Yep, that's right.
And
That's
they
right.
would call and they'd say, oh, yeah, we'd come by. And then they would come by, but they would only pick up a few things. They wouldn't pick up everything. And we know up front our costs, and we just put it out there. This is either going to be a cost to us, and we can work together to make it beneficial for both parties, or we cannot work together. And though we want to help everyone, and I have gotten myself into big trouble by trying to do that,
Yeah.
we're selective. And that's why we ask a lot of questions. And, I get referrals from a lot of the larger waste and recycling companies in DFW, because I have a niche that they can't fill, and they have a niche I can't fill. So luckily we work together. And I'll get someone say, well, she was just here last week and I answered all those questions, and now you're here again. And I'm all, until we get out on site, we don't know.
Right. Right. Well, and it's important for people to know that there are different processes, like you said. There are different research and development of what is recycled or recyclable. You put a lot of time and energy and education behind what you do. I know that from watching you work with some of the people that we've connected together. But I'd like to do a little bit of a flip, because I think everybody gets that it's good, right? It's like, recycling's good. I don't think we get enough in our face of what happens when we don't recycle. So describe to us what these landfills are looking like these days, what's happening, and why it's such a critical part of our overall just survival.
Real estate we have a lot of it, but it's not being made.
Right. No more land is being made.
Yeah.
There's no volcanoes.
We can't make any more real estate, unless you live on the Big Island. And unfortunately, that real estate is inhabitable, and it will be for, hundreds and hundreds of years. But it's the pollution. I hate to keep beating up the plastic industry, but any successful item, unfortunately, you get a spike and you just are moving along so fast that you're just trying to produce it fast enough to keep up with demand. And I think that's what's happened with plastic. And I get that question, to me all the time, is why should we recycle? And why is, plastic so bad? And it's really not the commodity that's bad. It's us as humans that are, because we aren't putting it where it needs to be properly. And, greenhouse gases,
Those are all real, by the way, guys.
Pollution to our streams, there's statistics. If you tested 7 out of 10 people, they'd have a certain percentage of plastic within their blood. They'd be able to detect a certain percentage of plastic within our bloodstream, which I truly believe. And that's another reason why I got into this industry. My son was born with a heart defect. And until he had open heart surgery, I never knew that 1 in every 100 babies that are born have some type of a heart defect. And it's our environment and it's our society that are causing this. When I was a young girl, no one had cancer.
Yeah. No one we knew. Yeah.
Polio was cured. They found a cure for, polio. So, you look back to, 25, 30 years ago, and there are so many illnesses and environmental catastrophes that did not exist. So more isn't always better.
Right. Well, there's a correlation between your health and well-being, 100% correlation, and what we're doing to the planet. It just, I remember when I was young, it was, what was the slogan about litter? Well, don't mess with Texas was the Texas slogan, but there was an Indian, a Native American, and he had a tier, and I am personally affronted when I see a diaper in the middle of the Walmart parking lot. I am really.
I can't even imagine that.
No, it's
but
awful.
I have seen it.
I mean, it's awful, and only because, in my opinion, there are litter is there's no excuse for it, but beyond that, again, the social responsibility as individuals even gets bigger when you own a business and you have a company and you are using a considerable amount of products for whatever reason, if it's a lotion, if it's an IT company, HR company like Insperity, they have a ton of employees.
Mm-hmm.
I know they have a recycling program that they're responsible. They're putting out the responsibility for. They care about their community. So here's the question, and then we have about, oh my gosh, we don't have that much time. I could talk about this all day. I'm a business owner. I'm in DFW. I know it's the right thing to do, but I haven't done it yet. 2018, it's on my list, top 3, I'm going to do this. What's the first thing they need to do?
I would say call your waste hauler.
Okay.
Most waste haulers also have a recycling program.
Okay.
And you can always call me.
That's right. And how would crs-tx.com is one way to get a hold of you.
And we do have, you can go to our website and you can log on there and you can send us a question. We're also on Facebook, commodityrecycletx.com, and just Google me. Just Google Joan Meeks and you'll find me, and good stuff.
Yeah. No, Joan and I, one of the things that, if nothing else, I mean, definitely get her expertise in recycling, because she's generous with her time and her knowledge. Thank you for being that way for the community. But the other thing that she's just amazing at is connecting people. And it seems like you've learned that through your business ownership.
Well, thanks to you, I still have quite a few very lucrative electronic, we do electronic recycling for some IT companies that didn't have an existing program, and they love it because we also service their customers. So not only them, it's a full gamut, and I have a personal goal of reaching 1 million people about recycling. So that's basically in 10 years, I think the number was like 432 people a day, every day for 10 years. So I'm
Hopefully
behind.
we'll be doing that. And I mean, we'll be helping you on that goal.
Yes. So I'm, behind the 8 ball. A business owner can only do so much. But truly, reach out to me. If you call your waste hauler and you're not getting the answers that you like or you feel comfortable with, the State of Texas Alliance for Recycling is a organization that I serve on their steering committee for here in North Texas. Currently, Texas as the state is only at about 23% as far as recycling goes, and we would like to get that as high as 60%. So it'll take everyone across Texas to be able to reach those goals.
You know what I'm seeing with many of the business owners, and they might be able to attest to this, is they don't really think about it until something happens, right? Until they move out of their building and all of a sudden they have this pile of stuff that they don't know what to do with. And I would say that's typical and normal and okay, but knowing who to go to when that pile of stuff happens is an important piece. So we appreciate commodity recycling solutions being a resource to the DFW area and anywhere else. I mean, certainly, I don't think you would turn anyone down.
No, I mean, I do, thankfully LinkedIn has given me the
Yes.
opportunity to connect to people worldwide, both to either help them or have them help me. But one thing too is we work with a lot of nonprofit organizations
Yes.
that are looking for items. Two specifically is the Wellman Project in Fort Worth. It's two young ladies. And what they do is they take office supplies and office furniture and they store it in their warehouse and give it out to teachers at no cost.
Oh, wow.
They actually did a Black Friday. I forget when it was. I think it was a week before school started. And teachers in the Fort Worth ISD school district could come to their location and take whatever they wanted for free.
Wow. Now that's reuse. I mean, that's an amazing organization. We have probably 1-2 minutes left. Let's go back to what Fort Worth is doing with their new program and sum that up for us on what to be looking for if I'm in Fort Worth or I have a business clients and associates in Fort Worth.
City of Fort Worth was very smart when they made the decision of hiring a very good friend of mine, Robert Smouse. He is the assistant solid waste director. And with him and his team, they are really looking at overall waste in Fort Worth, both residential and business wise. And everything from paper to food waste, just whatever can be, kept out of the landfill. A really good program that we have at Burnett Plaza in Fort Worth that our company provides. Everything in that building is recycled, with the exception of their food waste. And we're hoping to work on that soon. They've, had a change in management, but we've been recycling with them. We started out with their electronics 4 years ago. And 2 years ago, we started recycling everything else. And like I say, with the exception of their food waste. So that basically is our example of, an environmental steward business-wise.
Yeah. Absolutely. So we really appreciate Fort Worth, and I know Dallas has their recycling programs as well. If you want to look at that, you can go to the city sites.
Yep.
I would think they would have that as well. But we really want to encourage you to contact Joan and let her know if you need some help. You've been watching DFW Spotlight on Business, and this is Heidi Hardy. I do want to make sure that I plug next week's show, and next week is Ed Joseph, and he is the founder of Mind Enhancement Center. He's amazing. He's a hypnotist. So he's going to talk to us about how some of the things that he does can help business owners sort of, get out of their own way mentally. And the thought for the week is the greatest threat to our planet is the belief that someone else will save it. And that's by Robert Swan. Any last thoughts?
Nope. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you for being here, my friend. Thank you all for watching. And again, DFW Spotlight on Business. Don't forget to live your real life passionately.